When I opened our bank account and saw that nearly $80,000 had vanished, I realized my life had turned into some kind of terrible nightmare that I couldn't wake up from no matter how hard I tried. My name is Roy, I'm 48 years old, and I've been teaching American history at a San Diego middle school for 20 years. Every morning I wake up at 6, make coffee, prepare lessons about the Revolutionary War or the Civil Rights Movement, and try to inspire teenagers who would rather be scrolling through their phones. It's not glamorous work, but it's honest work, and I've always taken pride in it. My wife Martha taught English literature at a neighboring school. We met at a teaching conference in Sacramento 26 years ago. I still remember that day clearly. She was presenting on modern approaches to teaching Shakespeare, and I was completely captivated not just by her intelligence, but by the way her eyes lit up when she talked about making literature accessible to students. We got married a year later in a small ceremony at her parents' house in Orange County, and the next 25 years seemed almost perfect. Almost. We had our routine. Wake up, coffee together while discussing our lesson plans, drive to our respective schools, come home, grade papers, make dinner, watch a show, go to bed. Weekends meant grocery shopping on Saturday morning, maybe a movie or dinner out, and Sundays we'd prepare for the upcoming week. It was predictable, stable, comfortable. I thought we were happy. I thought she was happy. Looking back now, I can see the signs I missed. But at the time, I was blind to everything that was happening right under my nose. Everything started falling apart 3 months ago when Jennifer, my colleague in the history department, held me back after a faculty meeting. Jennifer was a serious woman in her mid-50s, never one for gossip or drama. She taught European history and had been at the school even longer than me. When she asked to speak with me privately, her face was grave. "Roy, I need to talk to you," she said quietly, looking around to make sure we were alone in the empty conference room. "It's about Martha." My heart stopped. Jennifer never involved herself in other people's business unless it was serious. Last Saturday night, I was at a party on the rooftop of the Horton Hotel downtown. My husband's company was having their annual corporate event. I saw Martha there, with a man. They were behaving, not like friends, Roy. They were very close. Intimate. I tried to laugh it off, but the sound that came out of my mouth was hollow and false, even to my own ears. Martha was home last Saturday. We watched a movie together. Some romantic comedy she picked. We had popcorn. Jennifer shook her head slowly, her expression pained. "Roy, this was around 11 at night. The party started at 9. And she was definitely there. I'm absolutely certain it was her. She was wearing that blue dress, you know, the one with the silver trim? I didn't want to tell you, but I couldn't keep it to myself. If my husband was, I would want to know." The next few days were torture. I tried to convince myself it was a case of mistaken identity. San Diego is a big city. Maybe Jennifer saw someone who looked like Martha. But something deep inside me had cracked, and I couldn't ignore the nagging doubt that had started to grow. I began noticing small things I'd overlooked before. Martha checked her phone more frequently, sometimes smiling at the screen when she thought I wasn't watching. She started going to extra seminars on Saturday mornings, coming home late in the afternoon with vague explanations about professional development workshops. When I asked her about them, her answers were always general, lacking the specific details she usually shared about her work life. One night, I woke up at 2 in the morning and found her sitting in the bathroom with her phone, texting someone. When I asked who she was talking to at that hour, she quickly locked the screen and said it was just her sister having insomnia. But I knew her sister lived in Boston, 3 hours ahead. It would have been 5 in the morning there. After a week of growing suspicions eating away at me, I made a decision I never thought I'd have to make. I hired a private investigator. His name was Michael Torres, a former San Diego police detective who'd gone into private practice after 20 years on the force. His office was a small, neat space in a strip mall in Chula Vista. The walls were covered with certificates and commendations from his time with the department. "I need to know if my wife is cheating on me," I said, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. "I have some reasons to suspect, but I need proof." Michael was professional and didn't ask unnecessary questions. He explained his rates, $2,000 up front for the first week of surveillance, then we'd discuss next steps based on what he found. I paid him from my personal checking account, money I'd saved from summer school teaching gigs. The results came faster than I expected. Michael called me 5 days later. "Mr. Roy, we need to meet. In person. This isn't something I want to discuss over the phone." We met at a small coffee shop on the outskirts of town, far from anywhere we might run into someone we knew. Michael slid a tablet across the table toward me. My hands were shaking as I looked at the screen. The first photo showed Martha kissing a man outside a fitness center. The second showed her entering his apartment building. The third captured them at a restaurant, holding hands across the table. The fourth showed them in a car together, her hand on his thigh. His name is Larry Connors, 39 years old, works as a nutritionist, Michael said, flipping through his notes. He operates out of several health clinics around San Diego, specializes in weight loss programs. But that's not all, Mr. Roy. He showed me more photos. Martha with a different man outside a shopping center. Martha with yet another man sitting in a car at a beach parking lot. How many? I whispered, feeling like I might vomit. 3 that I've been able to confirm over the past 5 days. Larry appears to be the primary one. She sees him most frequently, usually twice a week. The other 2 seem to be occasional meetups over the past 6 months, based on surveillance patterns I've been able to track. I stared at the photos, unable to process what I was seeing. This couldn't be my wife. Not my Martha. Not the woman I'd shared a bed with for 25 years. Not the woman who used to leave love notes in my lunch box when we were younger. There's more, Michael continued, his voice gentle but firm. I've been monitoring her financial activity as well. You gave me authorization to check joint accounts. Your wife has been making large cash withdrawals and transfers. I can't confirm exactly where all the money is going, but based on the timing and amounts, it appears she's been giving significant sums to Larry Connors. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars, Mr. Roy. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed next to Martha, staring at the ceiling in the darkness, listening to her breathe. She slept peacefully, completely unaware that I knew her secrets. I tried to remember when things had changed. Was there a specific moment? A fight we'd had? Something I'd done or failed to do? Or had she simply gotten bored with our life together? I thought about all our years together. Our wedding day, when she'd cried during her vows. The way she'd held my hand during my father's funeral. The hundreds of Sunday mornings we'd spent reading the newspaper together over coffee. The inside jokes we'd developed over the years. Had any of it been real? Or had I been living with a stranger all this time? The next morning, after Martha left for work, I went to our home office and started going through our documents. Bank statements, credit card bills, investment accounts, everything I could find. I needed to see the full picture of what had been happening under my nose. What I discovered made my blood run cold. Martha had been systematically withdrawing money from our joint savings account for the past 8 months. Not large enough amounts to trigger any alerts, 2,000 or 3,000 at a time, but frequent enough that it added up to nearly $80,000. Our entire retirement savings. The money we'd been carefully building for 20 years. The fund we'd planned to use to travel the world when we retired. The security we'd worked so hard to create. Gone. I called Michael immediately. I need to know everything, I said, my voice shaking with rage and hurt. Everything about this Larry person, where my money went, all of it. I don't care what it costs. Michael took the case seriously. Over the next 2 weeks, he dug deeper than I ever could have on my own. He hired additional investigators, ran background checks, followed paper trails, interviewed people. When he finally called me for another meeting, his voice was grim. Larry Connors has problems, Mr. Roy. Big problems. He's in debt to the tune of about $150,000 to various people. Some of them are, let's just say, not the type of people you want to owe money to. We're talking about loan sharks, possibly organized crime connections. So Martha was giving him money to pay off his debts. That appears to be part of it. But here's where it gets more interesting. Larry has multiple Tinder profiles under different names. He presents himself as a successful investor or businessman. He matches with women, builds relationships, gains their trust, and then starts borrowing money. Your wife isn't his first victim, Mr. Roy. She's not even his only current victim. I've identified at least 4 other women he's actively running the same scam on right now. The rage that filled me in that moment was unlike anything I'd ever felt. This man had not only stolen my wife, but he'd stolen our money, our future, and he'd done it all while running the same con on multiple women simultaneously. Is there enough evidence to go to the police? Possibly. But there's something else you should consider. If Larry has been moving money across state lines, and I believe he has, this could be a federal crime. Wire fraud. That would make it FBI territory, and the penalties would be much more severe than what local police could pursue. Do it, I said without hesitation. Contact whoever you need to contact. I want this man to pay for what he's done. The next few weeks were the most difficult of my life. I had to continue living normally, teaching my classes, grading papers, coming home to Martha, sleeping in the same bed with her, all while knowing what I knew. Every smile she gave me felt like a knife. Every "I love you" she said felt like another betrayal. But I was planning. Carefully, methodically planning. I collected all the evidence Michael had gathered: photographs, bank statements, text message records he'd managed to obtain through legal means, witness statements. I consulted with a divorce attorney named Robert Miller, one of the best in San Diego. He looked over everything with a practiced eye. "This is about as clear-cut as it gets," he said. "Infidelity, financial misconduct, you have documented proof of everything. In California, even though we're a no-fault divorce state, the court will take this into consideration when dividing assets. You'll get the house, most of your savings, whatever can be recovered, and probably a favorable settlement overall. What about the money she stole? Can I get that back? That's trickier. If it's already gone, you can't get blood from a stone. But if Larry has any assets, you might be able to pursue civil action against him once the criminal case is resolved." I also contacted the FBI. Special Agent Samantha Chen listened to my story carefully in her office in the federal building downtown. She was a sharp woman in her early 40s, with intelligent eyes that missed nothing. "Mr. Roy, if what you're telling me is true, we're looking at a serial fraudster. Larry Connors may be connected to fraud totaling over $500,000 from various victims across multiple states. This isn't just about your case. This could be the tip of a much larger operation. Is my wife a victim or an accomplice?" Agent Chin considered her words carefully. "Technically, she's a victim of his fraud. However, she also participated in taking money from your joint account without your knowledge or consent, which complicates her legal position. She may face charges related to that, depending on how you want to proceed. What do I need to do? Give us a week. We'll verify the information your investigator gathered, possibly set up surveillance of our own, coordinate with other field offices to see if there are more victims. In the meantime, you continue your normal life. Don't show your hand. Don't confront your wife yet. We need to catch Larry in the act if possible." That week dragged on endlessly. Every morning I woke up wondering if this would be the day it all came crashing down. Every evening I came home and pretended everything was fine, while my insides were churning with anger and grief. But finally, Agent Chin called. "We're ready to move. Tomorrow morning, we're bringing in Larry Connors. We have a warrant for his arrest and search warrants for his apartment, his office, and his car. He's involved in fraud against at least 12 women across 3 states that we've been able to confirm so far. It's a major case, Mr. Roy. Your information helped us build it. What about Martha? We'll need to interview her as a witness. If she cooperates fully with our investigation, she might avoid criminal charges. But that's ultimately up to the assistant U.S. attorney handling the case. I can't make any promises." That night I finally slept somewhat peacefully for the first time in weeks, knowing that justice was coming. The next day was a Saturday. Martha said she was going to a professional development seminar at the university. I knew she was really going to meet Larry. I waited at home, my phone in my hand. At 4 in the afternoon, Martha called. Her voice was trembling, panicked. Roy, something terrible happened." "What happened?" I made my voice sound concerned, worried, the way a loving husband should sound. "Larry, the FBI arrested him. At his apartment. They say he's a fraud, a con man. Roy, I was there. I was at his place when they came. They want to talk to me. They asked me so many questions. Roy, I don't understand what's happening. You were at his place?" I let my voice turn cold, hard. "What are you talking about, Martha?" A long silence on the other end of the line. "Roy, I need to tell you something. Please, can I come home? We need to talk." "I already know everything," I said quietly, each word measured and deliberate. "I know about Larry. I know about the others. I know about the money, all $80,000 of it. I know everything, Martha. Every single thing." She started crying, harsh sobs that once would have broken my heart. "Roy, please. I can explain. It's not what you think. Come home. We need to talk face to face." When Martha arrived an hour later, her face was red and swollen from crying. Her mascara had run down her cheeks. She looked 10 years older than she had that morning. She sat down across from me at our kitchen table, the same table where we'd shared thousands of meals over the years. "How long?" I asked, my voice flat. "About a year with Larry. The others, they weren't serious. They didn't mean anything." "A year," I repeated, letting the weight of that time frame sink in. And the money? He said he had temporary problems. That he would pay everything back with interest. That he loved me. That we had a future together. That he was going to leave his business, and we could start over somewhere new. He used you, Martha. He's a professional con artist. You're one of at least a dozen women he did the same thing to. The FBI told me there are more victims they haven't even identified yet. Did he ever mention any other women? She covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking. I know. The FBI told me everything. Showed me evidence. God, Roy, how could I have been so stupid? So blind? I gave him everything. Why? I asked, leaning forward. Just tell me why. What was wrong with our life? What did I do? What did I fail to do? Help me understand how we got here. Martha looked at me with red, puffy eyes, and I saw something there that struck me deeply. Real pain. Real remorse. Nothing was wrong with you, Roy. You've always been a good man. A good husband. You never cheated, never lied, never raised your hand to me. You provided for us, you were faithful, you were kind. But I felt invisible. I felt like I was disappearing. We lived on a schedule, Roy. Work, home, dinner, sleep. Work, home, dinner, sleep. Weekend routines that never changed. I looked at myself in the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. I'm 50 years old, and I felt like my life was over. Like the best parts were behind me, and all that was left was waiting to retire and then waiting to die. So you decided to find excitement by downloading Tinder? By meeting 3 different men? By stealing our retirement money? I knew it was wrong. Every single time I knew it was wrong. But when Larry paid attention to me, when he told me I was beautiful, when he made me feel desired, I felt alive again, Roy. I felt like I mattered. Like I was more than just a middle-aged English teacher going through the motions. At our expense. With our money. I didn't know about the money at first. I swear, Roy, in the beginning I thought he was successful, that he really did have his own business. He showed me papers, documents, talked about his investments. When he first asked for a small loan, just $2,000, he said it was temporary, a cash flow issue. He paid that back in 2 weeks. So when he asked for more, I believed him. And then more. And more. And by the time I realized something was wrong, I was in so deep I didn't know how to stop. You could have stopped by telling me, by being honest with your husband of 25 years. I was terrified. I knew you'd leave me. I knew I'd lose everything. I thought if I could just help Larry get out of his problems, he'd pay us back, and you'd never have to know. I could end things with him, and we could go back to normal. But you didn't end things with him. You kept seeing him. You kept seeing the others. She nodded miserably. I'm weak, Roy. I'm selfish. I'm every terrible thing you're thinking right now. And I've destroyed the best thing I ever had. I stood up, my legs feeling shaky beneath me. Is there anything else you need to tell me? Because this is your one chance to be completely honest. Martha hesitated, and in that moment of hesitation, I knew there was more. I'm pregnant, she whispered. The world stopped turning. I heard the words but couldn't process them. What did you say? I'm 2 months pregnant. It's Larry's baby. Something inside me that had been barely holding together finally completely shattered. I walked calmly to our bedroom, pulled out a suitcase I'd packed days ago in preparation for this moment, and headed for the door. What are you doing? Martha asked, appearing in the doorway, her face panicked. I'm leaving. I'm staying at a hotel. I need time to think. Roy, please don't do this. We can work through this. We can go to counseling. I'll do whatever you want. I'll get rid of the baby. I turned to face her one last time. If you loved me, Martha, you wouldn't have slept with other men. You wouldn't have stolen our savings. You wouldn't be carrying another man's child. Tomorrow my attorney will contact you. I'm filing for divorce. No. Roy, please. I love you. I've always loved you. You're my husband. We can fix this. It's too late, I said, and walked out the door. The next months were a legal battle. My attorney, Robert Miller, was ruthless in his approach. We have everything we need, he said, spreading the evidence across his conference table. Photographs, financial records, testimony from the private investigator, FBI documentation. Martha doesn't have a single leg to stand on. We're going to destroy her in court. Larry's case became public knowledge. The FBI's investigation revealed he'd defrauded 14 women of nearly $700,000 total. The assistant U.S. attorney prosecuting the case held a press conference announcing the charges. Larry Connors was charged with wire fraud, bank fraud, and money laundering. He faced up to 20 years in federal prison. Martha cooperated with the federal investigation, providing testimony and documents that helped them build their case. As a result, she avoided criminal charges herself, though the FBI made it clear she'd come very close to being charged as an accessory. But in our divorce proceedings, her cooperation with federal authorities didn't help her at all. The divorce trial took place 6 months after I'd left. Martha's attorney tried to argue that California's community property laws meant she was entitled to half of everything regardless of her infidelity. But Robert systematically destroyed that argument. "Your Honor, this isn't simply a case of infidelity," Robert argued. "This is a case of systematic financial fraud perpetrated by the respondent against the petitioner." Mrs. Martha took $80,000 from their joint savings account without Mr. Roy's knowledge or consent and gave it to a man she was having an affair with. This money represented their entire retirement savings, accumulated over 20 years of marriage. Furthermore, she is currently pregnant with another man's child while still legally married to the petitioner. The court has broad discretion in property division, and the circumstances here warrant a division heavily favoring Mr. Roy. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s who'd heard thousands of divorce cases, looked at Martha with clear disapproval. Having reviewed all the evidence and testimony, the court finds that the respondent engaged in gross financial misconduct and serial infidelity. While California is a no-fault divorce state, the court may consider economic misconduct when dividing property. Therefore, the court awards the marital home, the remaining joint savings accounts, Mr. Roy's pension and retirement accounts, and the majority of other marital assets to the petitioner, Mr. Roy. The respondent will receive the minimum required by law. Martha sat next to her attorney with a stone face as her life was legally dismantled. But the consequences weren't over yet. The FBI's investigation had uncovered that Martha had done more than just give Larry money. She'd helped him open bank accounts in her name, accounts he'd used to funnel fraudulent transactions. She'd signed documents without reading them. She'd essentially allowed herself to be used as a tool in his fraud operation. When the federal prosecutor contacted me to discuss the possibility of charging Martha as an accessory to fraud, I found myself in an unexpected position. Part of me wanted her to face the full consequences of her actions. But another part of me remembered the woman I'd loved for 25 years. She cooperated fully with our investigation, the prosecutor explained. Her testimony was instrumental in helping us locate other victims and trace the money. If you don't insist on pressing charges related to the marital funds, we can close the case regarding her involvement. She'd still face civil liability if any of Larry's other victims sue, but no criminal charges. I thought about it for a long time. What would punishing her more accomplish? Would it bring back our marriage? Would it return the years we'd lost? Would it erase the betrayal? Let it go, I finally said. She has to live with what she's done. That's punishment enough. The divorce was finalized 8 months after I'd walked out. I received the house, most of the recoverable savings, my pension, and our better car. Martha got a small cash settlement and her own retirement account. She'd have to start over essentially from scratch at 50 years old. I sold the house within a month. Too many memories, good and bad. I couldn't walk through those rooms without seeing the ghost of our marriage. I bought a small 2-bedroom condo with an ocean view. It was just enough space for me, with a second bedroom for a home office. A year after the divorce was final, I ran into Jennifer at the grocery store. "Roy, how are you?" she asked, her face lighting up with genuine concern. "Better," I answered honestly. "Much better than a year ago. I heard about everything with Martha. The trial, the FBI case, all of it. I'm so sorry you had to go through that." "Don't be sorry. You saved me by telling me the truth. I only wish someone had told me sooner." We got coffee at the Starbucks inside the store, and Jennifer caught me up on what she'd heard. Martha had the baby. A boy. She's living in a small apartment near the border, working at a private charter school. Makes less than half what she made at our school. Larry is in federal prison. I heard he got 8 years. The other men she was seeing all disappeared once everything became public. None of them wanted anything to do with her once the scandal broke. She got what she deserved, I said without anger. It was simply a statement of fact. 6 more months passed. I started dating again. Nothing serious, just reminding myself how to be a person again, how to trust again. I went to therapy to process everything. I reconnected with old friends I'd lost touch with over the years. I started training for a marathon. I learned to cook properly instead of just heating up frozen meals. I was rebuilding my life piece by piece. One day, a letter arrived in my mailbox. From Martha. Roy, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect a response. But I want you to know, I really did love you. I love you still. What I did was the biggest mistake of my life. Not because I lost the house or the money, but because I lost you. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I destroyed it through selfishness and stupidity. My son is a reminder of my mistakes every single day. But I love him, and I'm trying to be a better person. For him. I hope you find happiness. You deserve it more than anyone I know. Martha. I read the letter twice, then put it in a drawer. Maybe someday I'd be able to forgive her. Maybe someday the wound wouldn't be so raw. But not today. Not yet. I stand on my condo balcony, watching the sunset over the Pacific Ocean, holding a cup of coffee. My life isn't what I imagined it would be. But it's mine. It's honest. It's real. And for the first time in years, I feel free. Thank you for watching the video to the end. Maybe YouTube will no longer offer you my channel. So subscribe to it by clicking subscribe on the right under the video to receive new interesting stories. Also on the right of the video, there is a playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to, and you can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.